Good afternoon, everyone. It is 1:30 p.m. and I will call this regular meeting of Council of the Municipality of Jasper to order for August 19th, 2025. Welcome to councillors assembled here and municipal staff. Welcome to members of the community and others in the gallery. Thank you for your attendance and welcome to those watching on our Zoom platform and who will watch later on our YouTube channel. Councillors, you have before you the proposed agenda for today's meeting. Are there any additions, deletions, or other alterations to be made to the agenda? Councillor Melnick.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would like to add an item to the agenda under new business on behalf of Community Futures, an update on the Community Futures West Yellowhead Jasper Recovery Loan Program, if I may.
Thank you, Councillor Melnick, and you wanted to add that as new business, so agenda 6.8. Thank you. Are there any other changes to the agenda? Mr. Gibbon.
Your Worship, administration would like to request the addition of a in-camera item. We suspect that there may be an item coming out of the in-camera, so we suggest that it should be under new business 6.9, and it's related to labor.
And you are suggesting 6.9? And you're anticipating that there will be action taken so that we will go in camera and reconvene. I should not let everyone know that there will be nothing but adjournment happening.
That's right, Your Worship.
Thank you. Any other proposed changes to the agenda? Councillor Melnick, I would look to you perhaps to make a motion to incorporate your suggested change and the one suggested by administration, since they can't make a motion.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll make that motion to that we approve the agenda as amended with the addition.
That's for motion to amend.
To amend. Thank
the
you.
agenda to include.
6.8 and 6.9.
You. Any debate on that motion? I'll call the question. All those in favor? There are none opposed, and then I would ask for a motion to approve the agenda as amended. Councillor Waxer, thank you. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. We have two sets of minutes for review and potentially for approval, beginning with the minutes of the regular meeting of August 5th, 2025. Are there any errors, omissions, or corrections required to be made to those minutes? If there are not, I would look for a motion that council approve the minutes of the August 5th, 2025 regular council meeting as presented. Councillor Keller-Granty, thank you for that. Call the question. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. And then similarly, we have before us the meeting minutes of the committee of the whole meeting of August 12th, 2020. Are there any errors, omissions, or corrections required to be made to those minutes? Seeing nothing, I would look for a motion from a councillor that council approve the minutes of the August 12th, 2025 committee of the whole meeting as presented. Deputy Mayor Hall, thank you. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. That takes us to agenda item 4, delegations. We have one delegation noted. We will attend to that matter, agenda item 4.1 initially, and then I will go back to agenda item 4 and deal with delegations who may be in the room and not on the agenda. Welcome. We'll take it, members of the Jasper Tennis Club Society.
Yes, thank you. This is Dennis Zatino, for anybody who's familiar. And the third party who's instrumental in this tennis club program is John Wilmshurst. Unfortunately, he can't be with us this afternoon. So first of all, I'd like to thank you for the time allotted to us at short notice. That's very good. And then we'd like to acknowledge Christopher Reed and Angela Franklin for their help and encouragement throughout the grant process. We applied to the Community Facility Enhancement Program, and without their expertise, etc., this may not have happened. So I wanted to acknowledge that. We also want to thank the leaders and the residents of the community who pledged letters of support. And we've got to mention Mr. Martin Long, the MLA for Yellowhead, for his direct support with respect to this project. The project is to improve, repave, I'm loosely using that term, the 3 tennis courts that are now at the activity centre, plus the creation of 3 separate dedicated pickleball courts, which are to be put in place when the skateboard park is completely finished. So it will be side by side in that same area. It'll be a wonderful new recreation area that I think the residents and visitors alike will flock to, hopefully. We are thrilled to say we've received, got a call this morning, $112,000 in our account today. Because of course, I'm saying is the Jasper Park Tennis Club Society were the ones that were encouraged to apply for this program with respect to matching funds. So this is where you guys come in. We understand that 125,000 was put aside some years ago with respect to capital projects with a view to improving the tennis courts at that time. So we're hoping that these monies could be released in the 2026 budget year. Another request we would have to make is for a project manager to head that, the whole process, I suppose. I'm not sure how that would work, whether we would pay for that or you would provide it, but that's something that should be noted for this much needed enhancement. So the other thing we could pledge is that we've got a lot of support from the racket playing public, and we would dedicate a lot of volunteer hours to help that process throughout. So it wouldn't be just on the shoulders of the municipality. So with respect to timing and funding requirements and quotes, etc., if you've got any questions with respect to that, I would say Dennis is the man, because he's the one who's put the figures together, let's just say. So if you've got any questions,
I'd be happy to answer if I can. Great. Yeah, so if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer. Best to answer.
All right, well, thank you very much for the presentation. Thank you for arranging to come to council. We appreciate that. Important that you're in here now before budget deliberations, but recognizing also that budget for 2026 will be determined by the next council, not by this council. So, but fair enough. It's good to have this on the record ahead of time. Councillors, any questions? Or either Ms. Thomas or Mr. Spino about the presentation? Go ahead, Councillor Kelleher.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Mara, and to you, to Mr. Spino. Can you talk a little bit about the project and the timelines and that's expected to ultimately open money for the community?
Yeah, so the project, I guess how we got here, we we had our initial, meetings and stuff like that and decided this was a good way to go. And as if you don't know, pickleball is probably one of the fastest growing sports in North America. And also the tennis courts in their current state. I won't say they're unplayable, but they're barely playable. So, it was decided that this might be a good time to, try to get this put together. We initially thought we would, before the fire, we thought we would try to get the funding for July of last year. And well, unfortunately, as we know, that didn't come to fruition. So we did get the funding we just got notification of the funding this week. In that timeline, I have gathered a bunch of quotes to meet the requirements to get that grant. So our total quotes, basically is rebuilding is the surface of the tennis court is going to be rebuilt. The surface that is currently the skateboard park would have a new layer of asphalt put on and 3 new courts, pickleball courts put in there. New fencing around, that's not the whole place, just what's required around the pickleball court, some new windscreens, new netting all the way around. So that total budget was about 221,000, 222,000 or something like that in that neighborhood. And we feel that, with what we have proposed or what we have, drawn up, that we could meet that within that budget. We're probably looking for the funds in the spring, April, May of 26. With the anticipation of hopefully getting it put together for, June. Yeah. Thank
Thank
you.
you for that. Other questions? Councillor Waxer.
Not a question, but congratulations on a successful funding proposal. That's I know that those applications are complex and require a significant amount of time, so I appreciate the efforts. And then my question is to through you, Mayor Ireland, to CAO Given. Could you speak to the 120,000 that is in the capital budget that was set aside for this purpose?
Your worship, for Councillor Keller MP, for Councillor Waxer. The council approved budget shows an unfunded capital item for 2026 of $250,000 for the tennis court improvements. And so that's the item I think that the group's referring to. And so ultimately there would need to be an allocation of funds to that through the 2026 budget process. But it does show up as an item. Sorry, your worship. So it does show up in the 2026 budget. Council had been thinking of that, I think in line with the plans of the club, and administration reflected that, but it is an unfunded item. And so the council after the election will have to dedicate funds to provide the municipalities with matching money. So there's no money sitting there waiting. But it wasn't a project that the administration was aware of, and the council had seen fit to include it as an unfunded item.
Thank you for that, CAO Given. Councillor Demota.
Thank you very much, your worship. Just reflecting back, and I had to go and look it up, and it seemed a lot longer than that, but we had a recreation facilities review. And when we had an external group of people, experts in the field, kind of do the contract for it, they told us pickleball was coming, and I think none of us at that time had heard of it. And it doesn't seem like that long ago, but it was. And I think when we first started in on it in 2019, we already had a firm understanding of it, but they said pickleball was coming. I'm like, what is it? Anyway, one thing that I'm really looking forward to is repurposing the area that the current skate park is in. Now that we're getting a new one, I'm looking forward to doing that. I'm not sure if I'm going to be here in a few months from now when we're going to the next election, past the next election, but believe that this will have to come before the next council again. And maybe through your worship to Mr. Given or the rest of administration, is that a requirement that we're gonna see as we normally do with external groups coming forward to request funding?
Your worship, for Councillor Demota, so obviously if we were going to be providing the funding directly to the organization, we would enter into any agreements that are required under policy, such as our F-104 policy. I think there's probably a conversation to be had about who the ultimate owner of the asset is. It's, I think, on municipal property. And so, you know, municipality might take a more direct role in the construction process, and that's where the request for a project manager. It's likely something that the municipality would oversee the project, obviously with close collaboration and input from the user group. So I don't know that we would be providing the funds to the tennis club, so much as the tennis club has done a great job of going out and finding funds from the province to bring back to Jasper that we can combine with municipal money to make an improvement to a public facility. Did that get to the heart of your question?
Yeah, I think that nailed it, and yeah, I look forward to that coming up again at budget time, because it is a 2026 budget. I really appreciate the proactive approach and getting ahead of it now and planting the seed, because I think that's going to be important. And like I said, you know, looking forward to repurposing that area, and the earlier the better, because if we can take advantage of that, get people doing healthy things in the community, I think that would be on the top of my list. Thank you.
Councillor Watson.
Thank you, Mayor Arden, through you to CAO Given. Do you believe that we currently have in-house capacity to project manage, or would that be something that would be required to be contracted out and therefore an additional expense?
Worship, for Councillor Waxer. So the operations and utilities team is already aware of the project, and I know Director Reed has had a discussion with Director Donaldson about it, and so they're looking forward to the next construction season. I believe we likely have the capacity in-house. And if there was a need for any additional outside support, we would likely just include that in the overall capital cost of the project.
Councillor Milne.
Thank you, Mayor Ireland, through you to potentially two individuals. First of all, thank you for the presentation. CEO Given referred to the municipal assets, and I'm going back now to the skateboard park, which is, I believe, a municipal asset. And I'm wondering if the costs that were mentioned does include the removal of the skateboard park to do the pickleball course, or if that would be an additional cost to the municipality that we would have to incorporate.
Sorry, Mayor, Councillor Melnick, could you just clarify your question for me? If we could use the same contractor?
For clarity, there'd be a cost involved with removing the skateboard park. And I don't know if that was included in the grant application, or if we anticipated that now that we're adding or hoping to add 3 pickleball courts. And would that add, we can't know how much right now, but I anticipate that would be an additional cost over and above the ask right now for additional funding to match the grant plus the project management.
Thanks for the clarity. I actually might refer that to the group. My guess would be that they came up with an estimated budget based on quantities and surface area, and I don't know whether that included sort of a removal of the existing service and then sort of replacement of a subsurface or not. Again, this is the type of detail that we can likely this is why we would come to you at a budget with additional details. The great news about securing the additional funds. So the project really has gone from an idea to a funded project, where between now and budget time, we would work out in collaboration with the group all of these additional details.
My question, and Mr. Given, is whether there is anything that this council can do now to put some winds in the sail of the delegation by directing administration to come back at budget time with a proposal to accommodate this, because otherwise it seems to me it might just be blowing the wind a bit. Because we don't know who will be council when budget is considered, and they won't have received this presentation, so we could enhance potentially the project by at least directing administration to make those considerations and bring it back at budget deliberations for consideration of the next council.
Mayor Ireland, I guess a direct way to do that, you can take either two approaches. Council could receive the presentation for information and refer the request to the 2026 budget discussion. That's pretty neutral. Council could also choose to receive the presentation for information and direct administration to include the request as a funded item in the 2026 budget discussion. That's a little bit more to the point of saying this council thinks it should be included. Ultimately, it's up to the next council to approve the budget. But this council could be directed, that would give us some guidance when developing the draft budget, that we would have to go through and look at our potential capital funding sources and allocate the municipality's portion. Of course, the next council could choose to disregard that advice from administration and from this council, but there's two options for you there. Receive for information and refer to budget, pretty neutral. Receive for information and direct administration to include as a funded item in the budget.
Thank you for that. Are there any other questions of the delegation or administration with respect to that, Councillor Mollie?
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to the delegation to, is there a timeline as to this spending the money from the grant? In other words, there is a grant available to us, but usually there's an end date where that money has to be used for the project.
Yes, I believe it was 18
I
months,
think we both believe it was 18 months that
Yeah.
had to be extended.
lots of time.
But while we're talking about that, sorry, I don't know. I usually think my voice carries like crazy, but while we're talking about the funding that we received, does that just stay in our account or does that get transferred over to the municipality account? In that time frame that we have?
Your worship, if I might be able to add to that, yes, what generally occurs is that it's set up as a donation from the committee to the municipality. So we can work out the details on the transfer of funds after the fact. After this meeting, you can definitely be in touch and we can work out those details.
All right, I would look again for a motion, Councillor Waxer, unless you have a question. Go ahead.
I didn't have a question, but I did have a motion. I would like to move that we receive the presentation from the Jasper Park Tennis Club Society for information and direct administration to bring this project as a funded item to budget deliberations, to the 2026 budget deliberation.
Thank you for that motion. Councillor Waxer, do you wish to speak to the motion?
I just very much appreciate the passion and of community groups to make things happen for the community, and as opposed to leaving everything to the municipality, and that because of work like yours, that projects like this and the Uplift mural festivals and the Mount Alberta thing all happened because of this passion and hard work. So I'm very happy to support that, and I also acknowledge the rising interest in Jasper as well as across the country in pickleball and the importance of ongoing importance of tennis. So that's why I make the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Waxer. Councillor Demota and then Deputy Mayor.
Wait, I had my pen up, so usually that's your signal for just a point of order or for information clarity. I don't know if a friendly amendment needs to be made to the motion, but just to administration, if you need more clarity on the proposal or request as presented, or do we need some specifics on the resurfacing and the construction of a pickleball court in the actual motion?
Mayor Ireland, for Councillor Demota, certainly appreciate the consideration. I know Director Reed those in regular conversation with the organization, so we have a good working relationship. There's ongoing communication. It's not like we're not gonna talk to them after today until budget. We're gonna be talking to them regularly, so I don't think we need that level of specificity, but certainly appreciate the inquiry.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good with moving that. It's just because we might not all be the same people in a few months from now, so just as long as it's clear.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Hall.
Thank you, Mayor Ireland, and I just also want to thank the tennis club for the hard work, and I support the motion, especially considering it's an activity that requires very little equipment and is very accessible to many people. So thank you very much.
Anybody else wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Demota?
Yeah, I prefer the approach of having it come forward as a funded item, particularly because of the work that's been done for the external fundraising. And I think with that work done, there's a commitment, and there's no point putting people through the hoops again on a similar request. So I think the ball's rolling already, and the next council should, have this in front of them as a funded item for the next year.
I will take an opportunity to speak briefly to the motion, which I will support, although I would have also supported a motion for a referral. And I'm thinking simply in terms of how we might be positioning a new council, dealing potentially with its first budget. So I just want to be clear with the delegation that by supporting the motion, that administration bring it forward as a funded item doesn't mean that it is in any sense approved. And I want it to be clear to an incoming council that it will be their decision whether or not it will get funded, even though this council may direct administration to bring it forward for consideration as a funded item. So we are doing all that we can to position you, but at the same time, we are to an extent positioning an incoming council, which may not be received with smiles at all. But there we have it, and I think it's a fair resolution of the issue, and I too thank you for the work that you've done. I take it that $112,000 that's in your account today, does that include or exclude the CFEP grant?
That is the goal.
That is with it.
We had applied for 125,000, which was the maximum of the small CPAP funding. And over the winter time, we were asked about various things and whether we could do with less, etc., etc. So we were expecting actually a reduction, but this actually exceeded our estimates. And talking to your point, we understand there's no guarantees. So we were at the pleasure of the council, but we thank you for your support.
Thank you for that. Any other debate on the motion? Councillor Waxer, do you wish to pose? I will call the question. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. Thank you for your attendance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Your worship. Just wanted to say, to add some levity to sometimes our long and dry meetings, that I think it would be a dream in our community if the number one topic during election time would be funding for a new pickleball court. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we are still on agenda item 4, delegations. This is the point on our agenda where each week. Members of the community are free to address and welcome to address any matter which is on our agenda or may be on our agenda for the present meeting. And so if there is any member of the gallery who wishes to address any matter that is on the agenda, this is your time to come forward. We will permit you 3 minutes of presentation time and then augmented by whatever time it takes for questions from council. So is there anybody in the gallery who wishes to address council on any matter on the agenda? Please come forward. I'll just ask that you state your name for the record. You may have to push the button on the microphone a few times to get a red light to come on.
Hi. Hello, my name is Mollie of Lynch. Good afternoon, Mayor Island and council members, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak today. As I said, my name is Mollie Lynch. I am a mother of a child with autism, a teacher in this community for 17 years, and I'm a strong advocate for diversity and inclusion. Today, I am coming to speak to you on behalf of a larger group in our community because I believe Jasper has an important opportunity to take values we are proud of and bring them to life in a way that will impact generations to come. I would like to speak of an opportunity to create a Pine Grove expansion, a dedicated way for adults with neurodiversity that would ensure that some of our most vulnerable residents will always have a safe, stable, and supportive place to call home. A building project that could shape what our community will look like in the future. This project will be more than housing. It could create opportunities of employment for community members, create day programs that bring purpose and connection, and services that allow Jasper to embrace a truly inclusive population. And in doing so, we can become a leader among communities across Canada, showing what it means to live in our values of acceptance, care, and belonging. And so with that vision in mind, I'd like to share the letter that I had written on behalf of my parent group. And I'm not sure if you have read it already, but I'll share it with you here. As a mother and a member of Advocates for Special Kids, I'm writing to express my strong support for the inclusion of a dedicated wing for adults with neurodiversity and the proposed new build of Pine Grove. This space would provide a safe and supportive and managed living environment for individuals in our community who require ongoing care and stability. For many individuals on the autism spectrum and others with neurodiverse needs, familiarity is safety. And Jasper is not just their home, it is their world, their comfort, and the only place they have ever known. Moving away from this environment can be deeply distressing and disruptive, and our community prides itself on being inclusive and supportive. And ensuring that these individuals have a secure place to live locally is a vital step in upholding those values. This initiative would also provide peace of mind for parents and caregivers who know that their loved ones will have access to long-term housing and support within the community. And many of these families face uncertainty as their children grow into adulthood, worrying about where they will live and who will care for them when they no longer can do so themselves. Having a local neurodiversity inclusive housing option would alleviate that concern and allow families to stay connected while ensuring their loved ones receive the care that they need. We know that planning and funding such an initiative presents challenges, but we also know that Jasper has always been a community that leads with vision and compassion. By including a dedicated neurodivergent wing in the Pine Grove expansion, Council has the chance to set a precedent that other towns will look to as a model for inclusive living. This is more than a building project. It's an opportunity to show what true community leadership looks like and to ensure that Jasper continues to be a place where every resident belongs. Thank you for your time and consideration. I would love to work together to make this vision a reality and to building a future where Jasper continues to shine as an example for inclusivity for others to follow. In closing, as I already said, it's about leadership, opportunity, inclusion. I would love to be an example that other communities look to us. And thank you for your time and consideration, and I hope that we can take this important step forward.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you for attending. Are there questions from councillors? Councillor Demoto.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, and thank you, Ms. Lalonde Lynch, for coming forward and bringing this to us today. Maybe not a question for you, but across the table to our council representative on the Evergreens board. I would like to ask you if there have been any plans or discussions on something in this initiative.
Thank you, Councillor Mollie, through Mayor Ireland and Ms. Lynch. Pine Grove doesn't belong to Evergreen. Pine Grove belongs to the Alberta government. Evergreen manages Pine Grove. It is an independent living for seniors, and that's my understanding of what they're planning to build with a senior center. However, I have been in talks with Grace Cohen, Children Bottom, and she is working on an initiative to start a group home in Jasper. And I am working with David Williams, the Alberta government, to connect her to the department to see if we can find funding. She is speculating she might have some area where this group home can be built in Jasper. But other than that, I don't have any more details.
Well, whether or not, Evergreens manages it, or if it's a provincial thing, for me, it hits close to home. And one of the things that, our jobs as council is to advocate for. Next time we're having discussions with the province, I think it's important to at least bring up, whether it's at this location or another opportunity within the community. I think it's well worth a discussion, and I will support that through and through as far as we can help advocacy and any way that we can help find some external funding to make that happen.
So that was-
Internally.
Yeah, so that was my conversation last Wednesday when I was in Edmonton, when I spoke with Mr. Williams, and he is supposed to provide me some information, hopefully this week, that I can pass along to Ms. Cohen. And about getting in touch with the proper department where she may be able to get some funding for this initiative that she is trying to move forward.
Are there other questions for Mr. Lynch? Have you had any direct contact with any departments within the provincial government about this initiative?
No, I haven't myself. I was just asked on behalf of Kids for Special Kids to write a letter. On behalf, they asked any of the parents that would like to, and so when I did, they asked if I would come and present at council, that would be the next step I would be willing to take, and so that's where I am here today.
Well, I certainly appreciate that, and I have no particular expectations, and it's an appropriate place for you to start, and it does begin with inclusion, and this council is committed to inclusion. I would think that we could certainly advocate to the next order of government above us, which is the provincial government, which has a responsibility. I'm not sure exactly what department, there might be overlapping departments. I also understand that there are other local initiatives to make more generalized community use of that whole large piece of land. And so the inclusion of inclusive housing for adults with neurodiversity might be part of that. So from my own perspective, and not that it's got to a motion yet, I would certainly be supportive of advocating on your behalf. But as you heard, this is a provincial building, and they will rebuild Pine Grove. But if we can influence the outcome of that rebuild and what is included, particularly for the benefit of the community, then I'm certainly prepared to be supportive of that. That is a matter for discussion on our agenda, because your letter, of course, is on the agenda, and it is a matter that comes next in our agenda in any event. So subject to what debate we might have among ourselves. Are there any other questions from councillors who are presenting today? Deputy Mayor Hall.
Thank you very much, Mayor Ireland. I do have a question. I'm wondering how many families are part of the organization Advocates for Special Kids?
So I couldn't tell you exactly how many. I mean, we definitely have at least 12. I know that we come to, visit, but there are groups that come and go, and especially since the fire has been a bit more difficult. So, yeah. But I did get some other letters from other families as well, that after they knew that I had submitted mine, they were like, oh, could you? So there is a larger group than just me that would love to see this happen.
Councillor Waxer.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you to Ms. Lalonde. I wanted to just say that I recognize this has been a long-term concern and is a very important topic for discussion, and I hope that there will be some movement at the provincial level, particularly to assist with that. And now is a really appropriate time as rebuilding is occurring to add on. So I appreciate you bringing this to our attention. Thank you.
If there are no further questions, I thank you, Ms. Lalonde Lynch, for your presentation and for the letter. And as I say, that is the next item on our agenda in any event. So we will proceed with that, subject to any further delegations that might want to present. Thank you very much. And before I move to agenda item 5, I will call once again for any member of the gallery who wishes to present to council on any item on our agenda. You're welcome to do so now. I see no further hands in the air, so I will say that that opportunity has passed, and we will move to agenda item 5, correspondence. And 5.1 is in fact the letter from Ms. Lalonde Lynch that was just read to us, and that is for consideration council. Any discussion or any motions arising from that? Deputy Mayor Paul?
Thank you very much. I would make a motion if there is no further conversation. I know that maybe come out of her, Ms. Lalonde Lynch's delegation, but I would like to make a motion that council advocate to the provincial government to consider a supported and dedicated living space for adults with neurodivergent needs in Jasper. Not sure if that's clear or if that makes sense, but I absolutely support that.
Just as a friendly amendment, might you begin that motion with council received the correspondence for information and advocate.
I accept that amendment.
Thank you for that. Councillor Keller.
Thank you, Mayor and Deputy Mayor Hall for making that motion, and I totally support this. And as I said, like, as soon as I get information, I'll provide it so that we know which department and who to contact, and we can get the correspondence off and start the advocacy rolling.
I also supportive of the motion. I wonder in the context of this, whether anybody has any idea where other matters now stand. I know that there has been community discussion, well, perhaps not at this table, of a community center and combining a place for worship and a broader sense of the entire area. And I don't know whether there are any discussions ongoing in that regard. Does anybody have any sense?
I believe they're it's still at the board level table from what I've understood from speaking to a couple of board members. However, they are working, and I know the Alberta government is open to working with the group also for the rebuild there.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Does any other councillor wish to speak to the motion? And for administration, was the motion clear enough with its friendly amendment? Thank you for that. All right, I will call the question. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. That takes us to agenda item 5.2. We have the quarterly report from the RCMP. The RCMP is not in attendance, but the report is on the agenda. Are there any matters arising from that quarterly report that councillors would like administration to take back to the RCMP? I have one question, and I wonder whether administration might take this back to Sergeant Bedesi, the detachment commander. If I can just find the reference, there is a reference in the statistics to municipal bylaws. And my question is that a reference to municipal bylaws enforced by the RCMP? And if it is, which I presume it is, what municipal bylaws might they be enforcing?
Maryland administration can certainly take back any questions council might have about the report to Sergeant Bedesi, and we can take that specific one back. As Mr. Mayor, you're obviously aware, but for everyone's information, the RCMP have broad authority to enforce any laws of the land, the municipalities' bylaws, provincial laws, federal laws, including the Canada National Parks Act. So they have broad authority to enforce any laws that they see appropriate. And so there may be some instances, and it looks like since 2021, off and on, there are some instances where they've seen fit to undertake some enforcement action under municipal bylaws. But again, I think this is a regular sort of routine course of business. You'll note that they also highlight where they've taken actions under the Federal Liquor Act, the Federal Cannabis Act, the Federal Mental Health Act, and a number of different acts. So they really are sort of segmenting out of the interactions that they have with people. They'll leverage a bunch of different legislation, including some of ours. But we can, look for more specifics. Obviously, the number is down significantly over prior year. And so it looks like overall, off and on, some years more, some years less in the RCMP's enforcement of municipal bylaws. But it is possible, along with all the other laws that they have the authority to enforce.
Thank you for that, Mr. Given, and I don't question their authority to enforce. I'm just curious which ones, particularly last year, they were enforcing, and the year before, and they were fairly high numbers. And it might give council an opportunity to consider RCMP involvement when it crafts bylaws that could be enforced by them. Anyway, it's just of interest to me. If there are no further questions with respect to the report, I would look for a motion to receive the correspondence for information. Councillor Keller-Hardy. I was looking to one side, not the other side. Call the question. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. That takes us to agenda item 6, new business, and we start with the annual update from Aquaterra. So welcome, Tamara and Ryan. Good to see you here in person. Always a pleasure. And when you get set up with the technical aspect, I turn the floor to you for your presentation.
All right, thank you, Mayor Ireland. So first of all, I just want to say good afternoon and thank you for the opportunity to come and share with you, with council and with administration today. So my name is Tamara Watney Campbell. I am the Business Development Manager for Aquaterra. Previously, I was the Treatment Operations Manager for Aquaterra, so I worked directly with the operations team here in Jasper. I have with me today Ryan Rosian. He is our acting CAO. Our CAO Vaughn Bend is away, and so he came to attend in person to represent Vaughn. And then behind me, I have Fred Weeb. He is our Central Alberta Manager, and the contract with Aquaterra and Jasper, he will be managing it going forward. So he's here today, and he'll be probably the one presenting to you guys next year, or to council next year. There you go. So today we'll just talk about our relationship with Jasper and Aquaterra, the community support that Aquaterra provides. We'll touch a little bit on the Jasper Wildfire Complex and the response that our team provided in that situation. And then we'll go through some of our performance results, including environmental performance and our capital projects. So the picture here on the screen is of our team here in Jasper. So we have 4 operators who we are very, very proud of. They are a wonderful team. And then as well in the picture is our lead technician who provides technical support. He's a level 4 water, a level 4 wastewater operator. And so this is our team who supports the Jasper wastewater treatment plant. So we've been operating here in Jasper since July 2021. I'd like to say we've been operating very proudly. It's been a really great experience. The 4 local operators, Aquaterra, our approach is we like to hire local operators who are working and within the community planting roots. We did hire this year a 4th operator, Co, who's in the middle there. And he's been a fantastic addition to our team. 2 of our operators we're very proud to share have achieved their level 3 wastewater certification. So Jill and Rick have achieved that. And that's, you know, it's actually quite a big achievement within the industry. It can take many years to achieve certification to level up within the industry. So we're very proud of them for that. We also developed and implemented an operations program, and this was in response to a request or a requirement that was in the required by Alberta Environment within our approval. A QA/QC program had been developed last year, and this is to ensure that there's quality control within the lab and how our operators are working in the lab. We had a request from Alberta Environment to provide an amendment, which was completed and resubmitted to Alberta Environment. And then our regulatory and compliance specialist, Ashley Rowney, she supported with the amendment to the approval for upgrading of the emergency wastewater storage lagoon, which is a capital project that will be coming in the future. So from a community support, Aquaterra really tries to support in the communities, and we are consistently looking for community groups. So I may have gotten an idea from the delegation earlier this morning, but we are always looking for community groups. So I'm happy for council to share the news and spread that because we seem to have a hard time finding community groups, but we know they're out there. So giving to the community is really important to us. Our operations team provide community and school groups with educational tours. Throughout the wildfire last year, an email or a request was sent out to across the organization, and our own internal employees provided donations that were given to the Jasper operators to support them through their evacuation and return. So giving to the community, really planting ourselves within the community is important to Aquaterra. So I don't want to go too in depth because I know we did talk about this last year, but just maybe a quick recap of the Jasper Wildfire Complex. It was a a very challenging time for everybody. And we're so proud of our operators and how resilient they were. So initially, our operators that were stationed out of Jasper evacuated, and we worked with them to develop a return to work based on what their individual needs were. So each operator had different situations and circumstances, and it was important that we worked with each of them. We're very fortunate that we have a depth of operators in Hinton, as well as in Grand Prairie, in Wetaskiwin, that are able to come and support in these sorts of situations. So the picture on the left-hand side there is actually some of our distribution and collection operators who came to Jasper to support Vidal Michaud and his team in Flushing. But we're grateful to those operators as well that they were willing to come in during the situation and relieve the Jasper operators so they could go and take care of their families and what they needed to do. So throughout the fire, there was continuous monitoring. At times we weren't able to be within Jasper, so they were monitored from Hinton. But we were consistently in touch with Alberta Environment. We had daily check-in meetings with them. For our Jasper operators, we continued to ensure that they were paid and received their benefits. If there's any employee assistance that we could offer them, supporting them through that. One operator was not able to travel back to his family who was in BC, so we arranged flights for him to fly over to BC. So just really trying to support our operators in whatever they needed during that situation. So it was challenging during, but it continued to be challenging operating conditions after. And this is because the low influent volumes, so the low wastewater influent volumes coming into the plant really created challenging situations or operating conditions. And while they have recovered, there are still some challenging operating conditions to date because those influent volumes have not recovered. We're really grateful that the town of Edson was able to give us seed sludge. So that's where we get the bugs from their wastewater, and we can put it into ours to help with the treatment because it's a biological treatment where it's bacteria that's breaking down. So we've had to change how we operate, but very grateful to the town of Edson for accommodating the multiple times that they provided seed sludge. So a little bit about our performance results. So this is within our contract. So we did not have any work-related reportable claims last year. Operationally, actually, maybe I'll go to the next slide. It goes a little bit more in detail. However, this is a summary of them. I did want to just note that because we didn't have any assigned capital projects, the weighting was recalibrated. And then another thing to note is that under the regulatory requirements, or the non-compliance approval limits, I apologize. The only non-compliances that we did have last year or within the last year, so it's July 1st of 2024 to June 30th, 2025, apologies. The only non-compliances that we had were caused by the wildfire and an unauthorized discharge within the collection system, which is outside of the control of our operators. So we did omit those and re-reported it based on what they can control. So those are conditions that were very challenging. They're outside of the control of the operators. So we had no lost time injuries, which we're very thankful for. Safety is a big focus with Aquaterra. We want to ensure that our staff are safe, that they're going home to their families, that contractors on site, public, so safety is a very big focus of Aquaterra. So some operational improvements, and I touched on this previously, but we did our QA/QC program and our operations program, which were completed in 2024 and amended again in 2025 with Alberta Environment, who we're very pleased with what was submitted. Some continuous improvements. So if there's anything, to try to see a light on over the situation with the wildfire, is that because we had reduced influent volumes, there were certain projects we were able to do that we would not have been able to do when we had high influent volumes. One of those being replacing of the Jasper Park Lodge influent flow meter to accurately record what is coming from Jasper Park Lodge. And so that there was a few, positive things for us that we were able to fix there. If not, it would have, the situation would have been vastly different. We likely would have had to have a large tank and divert, but because the inflow volumes were lower, we could do some of those projects. Improve site security, some getting the fence fixed, some new gates and some man doors were installed. Adding some flush points to some equipment that reduced the shutdowns that were required and increased our cleaning, and doing a repair on one of the clarifiers. So overall, our asset maintenance or preventative maintenance, we completed 90% of all PMs. So there is 676 total PMs and 607 of those were completed. So from the environmental performance, 5 non-compliances and 1 notification were submitted to Alberta Environment directly associated with the Jasper wildfire. I will say that I spoke with the director following, and he was extremely impressed with the response from our operators and our team with how it was handled. We had 1 non-compliance in November of 2025 or 4 associated with the unauthorized discharge of a contaminated load within the collection system that made its way into the wastewater plant and impacted treatment. So from a capital project summary, our team worked with Vidal Michaud and Baron Mans to revise the capital plan, and was submitted last September. We are currently in the midst of doing a review, and we'll have one submitted for this year as well. Aquaterra submitted a revised budget and proposal of emergency wastewater storage cell relining project, which, in a situation like the fire, that would have really been helpful and would have reduced the amount of non-compliances directly, because we would have been able to go to storage and store that wastewater rather than just having to discharge it. So it's a fantastic capital project in my opinion, but I know it's also within the approval and a requirement from Alberta Environment. We also supported on some other projects operationally, such as the UV disinfection and blower replacement projects. We've submitted quotes and have gotten approval now for a few other projects that we are looking to complete this year. Try not to get into too much detail, but the inlet screen, some roof railings from a safety perspective, auger, and the dewatering building AC. So what we're noticing is it heats up in the centrifuge building, which it starts to impact electrical components and MCCs and those sorts of things. So those are things that we are certainly looking at completing this year. So yeah, I just like to finish and end on just saying how proud we are of our operators and the wonderful job that they do. It's been a pleasure working in Jasper, and we're proud to operate the wastewater plant for Jasper and on behalf of Jasper. So thank you.
Thank you, Tamara. And thanks to Aquaterra General for the service they provide to our community. Questions from councillors? Councillor Lalonde.
Well, thank you, Your Worship. Through you to our representatives from Aquaterra, Tamara and Ryan. Yeah, I appreciate the fact that it seems like you have a good commitment to your staff, having been evacuated and working for a group outside of the community that's involved, and a lot of the services here appreciated being taken care of. And it's nice to hear that there are other companies out there taking care of their staff and making a commitment to hire local. That's a big thing. And I believe since you've been working with Jasper, that the level of the standards have been high, and you hold your staff and the facility to higher standards. So it's good for the community, because we have taken quite an investment in that. Early on, I remember when it was first initiated that we kind of felt that plant was oversized, and it still might be a little bit, but from that standard, we need that in our community when we're hitting maximum flush in summertime, correct? Having said that, on top of all the other, projects that you have going on within that facility, and the, regular maintenance, I would just like to inquire where we're at with emergency generation. And I know that we faced a little bit of a challenge during the Chatham fire, and I'm just wondering if how we were dealing with our emergency generation and backup generation, if those things have been kind of worked towards in getting kind of in a stronger foothold of the property.
Yeah, so it is within the capital plan. I couldn't tell you right now when, but I believe it was 2026. But we can get a definite answer on for that for you, for council.
Okay. Well, I appreciate it. Like, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. It's just, it's one of those things that, you know, if we're able to keep this community running during external emergencies and stuff like that, you know, we're happy to facilitate in areas, but if our own wastewater treatment plant becomes compromised, we can't live here. So, and that's the big thing, and we can't host people. And our community highly, you know, relies on visitation in our community. So that's just one of those things that I think should be a priority. But that's my thing, and if it is, then that's good to hear.
Thank you. I do believe it is a priority. I just don't have the exact timelines, but it was something that was in the capital plan as well. Something we had spoken about following both the Chatham fire and the wildfire complex as would be highly, highly recommended for the wastewater treatment plant. So I can commit to going back and getting some responses for you there.
And if I may finish, just to unabashedly advocate for the skate park committee, I think that they're a few $1,000s short from support if you're looking. And that's coming pretty close. They're opening up, we're planning to open with them on the 21st of September. So if you're looking out, I can connect you to,
Sure, that would.
if you're not already committed.
I think we have them, but
Okay.
I'll take another contact. Yeah. There's a process that has to be followed, so as long as it's submitted through a form, it goes for consideration for sure.
Thank you. Other questions from councillors? On the same issue of the criticality of wastewater treatment to the operation of our community, you've referenced it under the environmental performance, 2 slides up, the one episode of non-compliance out of control of your operators. I take it a private entity discharged a contaminated load. Can you generally say what might be the worst case scenario in that regard? What we might be able to put in place to prevent that, and whether or not the contaminated load can be traced to the perpetrator, and to the extent that our community absolutely depends on the proper functioning of that facility, and we're in a protected area on the shores of the Canadian Heritage River. This is serious stuff, and I appreciate that it's not the fault of operators, but can we safeguard, and can those who are entitled to discharge be informed of what the risk could be if they put us in default and close that plant somehow, if that is within the realm of possible.
Okay, so it can be very difficult to trace back to an entity, because when this happened, and we were very grateful for the support from Vidal and his team, but they did go out and do random sampling, trying to identify exactly where in the collection system it was coming from. And it's hard because it was happening, it seemed, at night. Now, one thing is that emergency storage pond, that would be a buffer, because you can divert up there. And so you're not discharging to the environment, and that would give an ability to dilution, right, to dilute it before bringing it back and treating it. As far as that, it can be very tricky, and I know within our own system within Grand Prairie, I think it's an issue for all utilities, right? It can be very, very hard to trace without having some kind of source control inspector, which a lot of municipalities don't have, right? They're just not quite large enough to be able to justify one of those, but I would say education is probably the next biggest thing. And working with the comms team, our comms team is happy to support as well, but just getting it out there. This did seem like it was an intentional disposal happening at night, in the evenings or nighttime when no one was looking, but I do believe, and I can't remember the specifics offhand, that Vidal was looking at ensuring that that wasn't happening within, I think it was an industrial park or a septic somewhere that they could dispose, so I think that he was looking or had made some changes to prevent that from happening. So,
Well, thank you very much. And it's good just in this venue to get that out and circulated, that people thinking they could cut corners and put the entire community at risk is just untenable.
yeah.
I appreciate that and thank you for letting us know that Vidal was on top of that.
He very,
As he always is.
Yeah.
Thank you. If there are no further questions, I would look for a motion. Councillor Mellon.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I do have one quick question as it relates to the reference to the storage town relining project. I believe that was going to be something that we were going to try to do this year. But as things have evolved, I take it that'll be a priority in next year's budget.
I believe so. My understanding is that the municipality was seeking out funding to support with that project because it would be a large capital cost.
Thank you for that. Appreciate it. And if there are, Your Worship, other comments from councillors, I could make the required motion. Thank you. And with that, I would like to make the motion that council receive a presentation from Aquaterra, Aquaterra's annual update for information.
Thank you for that motion. Councillor Melnick, is there any debate? I will call the question. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. Thank you again.
Thank you very much.
And to your silent partner in Beth. Look forward to hearing from you next year. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Before we proceed with the next agenda item, 6.2, the Public Coordination Center progress update. Is any councillor in need of a break? We are getting nods. So let's say 6 minutes. We will reconvene at whatever that is, 2:50. That's what we will time. So then we are in recess. Right, it is 2:50 and I will call us back in session, and we are at agenda item 6.2, the Jasper Recovery Coordination Center progress updates. And instead of Director Fark today before us, we have Mr. Ireland. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor, Council, Administration, and guests. Logan Ireland here representing the Jasper Recovery Coordination Center to offer our executive summary and answer any questions you may have related to the work at the JRCC. I believe previously the agenda package was on this laptop and displayed for people online. Do I need to do something to get that back?
Just hit share.
Just hit share. Okay. Is it here?
I don't know where my usually
Maybe
is.
Okay. There we go. Thank you. This week is the 1-year anniversary of the Jasper Recovery Coordination Center being established on August 22nd, 2024. So I wanted to give a thank you to all my colleagues that have given their time and energy to Jasper's recovery over the past year, and to everyone in this room and beyond, all of our partners that have supported that work and given us the opportunity to do it. With interim housing, we have 278 households moved in as of August 12th, which includes 532 individual residents being provided with interim housing. The work continues to mobilize additional units of housing. At the museum site, we have 3 units in place. We're expecting 2 more to arrive on Thursday. And we'll have a total of 8 at that site, for which we are targeting our occupancy in the middle of September. And our civil works are ongoing at Patricia Circle, where we will have 6 units of housing available with a target occupancy date of the middle of October. With respect to debris removal, we have 100% of debris removal permits issued, which includes 99% of lots having physical debris removed. Sampling analysis and administrative work continues to ensure that the sites are clean and safe for occupancy in perpetuity. With respect to the rebuild, we have 65 development permits for residential rebuilds approved out of 87, and a total of 24 in-town residential properties with building permits. Related to the town rebuild is utility reinstall, infrastructure replacement. ATCO Electric is leading the project in Cabin Creek, which is well underway. You can follow along with their schedule on their website, and there are links to it available on the municipality website as well. ATCO Electric is also engaged in reinstalling their lines at certain alleys around town, which were damaged. They have provided a draft schedule to us for the 4 main alleys that were impacted, and they plan to begin work on those alleys within the next 2 weeks, and we will see work proceeding and commencing by the end of October. So ATCO Electric plans to have all areas of town re-energized and ready to provide construction power by the end of October. We've also established our construction coordination working group as our efforts shift out of debris removal mode and into supporting the rebuild. With respect to social recovery, programming, support, healing, and spiritual well-being are ongoing. On August 28th and 29th, there are 2 more Healing Through Fire sessions being offered through the combined efforts of the JRCC, Parks Canada, and Lac St. Anne. We also were proud to be involved in Indigenous healing ceremonies, healing circles, and pipe ceremonies with Wesley family and Stoney people on August 11th and 12th. As far as economic recovery, the working group is looking to reestablish their performance indicators, track progress. With respect to economic recovery, 2 of the major initiatives, which CCI encompasses, the Pop-Up Village and the Interim Industrial Park, continue to make progress. The Pop-Up Village is in the final stages of having the electricity hooked up to the main grid and moving off generator power. Secondary electrical work has been completed, and we're awaiting the meter to be installed and the final switch to be flipped. At the Interim Industrial Park, we are working with the supplier to receive a granular delivery schedule for the municipality purchased sea cans. At present, we are anticipating delivery through September and October. And we will be communicating specific dates to businesses that have those sea cans reserved once we become aware of them. In addition, our laydown yard in the S block is now operating and supporting rebuild companies giving them an opportunity to have space for staging and laydown and support the rebuilds that are commencing around town. And there is another laydown in what's known as the woodlot across the highway, for which we are working with Parks Canada to implement mitigations that will allow that land to be used safely throughout recovery. So we're likely 2 to 3 weeks away before the woodlot becomes available for storage. With respect to communications, the Jasper Recovery Framework and the 1-year progress report, which launched on August 6th, are now both available on the Parks Canada and Municipality of Jasper websites. PDF copies are also available for download. And we encourage residents to stay informed on the status of progress of demolition and rebuild permits by viewing the map at the wildfire recovery information page on the Municipality of Jasper website, which tracks everything from debris removal permits, development permits, and building permits. I am now happy to answer any questions that Mayor and Council may have for the JRCC.
Thank you for that update report. Questions from councilors? Councillor Waxer?
Sorry, I'm just going through this. There was at one point, oh yeah, here we go. Development permits issued in July took an average of 27 business days to complete. But at the end of that sentence bullet, it talks about that non-conforming applications took 90 days, which is an increase from 70 days in June. So I just wondered if you could explain why that significant increase was occurring in July.
Thanks, Councillor Waxer. I noticed that point myself as well, and I think it speaks to the benefits of submitting a permit application that is already in line with expectations. I can speculate that Parks Canada is working to support permit turnaround as expediently as they can, and that is reflected in the previous stat, which shows that those the turnaround time is decreasing. It's becoming faster for the conforming applications. And so I think the conclusion that we can draw from that is that the more prepared builders and leaseholders are when they submit their applications, the faster Parks Canada will be able to action those items. And the municipality through the UVS team has made time available to assist residents with those applications.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Hall.
Thank you very much, Mayor Ireland. My question is with more modulars coming into R4, is there a timeline for ATCO in the R4 area?
ATCO Electric, thanks for the question, Councillor Hall. ATCO Electric is not impacted. Their power is available in the R4 district. ATCO Gas intended to have their contractors start the reinstall in that area this week on August 18th. We are looking for an update to them to confirm that work proceeded, and they have made a website available that we are able to share publicly. And they have also provided a contact should individual leaseholders or builders want to get into the specifics with timelines and integrate into ATCO Gas's plans there.
Thank you for that. Other questions? Councillor Devoda?
Thank you very much. I appreciate the report through you, Your Worship. The other Mr. Ireland. Just a quick question on the Pathfinders. In your report, it states that they're you're looking to schedule something for the fall. Are there any loose dates that you have? Right now that where people can look at lining themselves up for?
Thanks for the question, Councillor Tomoda. I do not have those dates on hand, but I am confident that there are tentative dates scheduled. So we would be able to relay that to you, and I can work with our communications team to ensure that it's available through the website so that people can access that. Thanks for raising that.
Yeah, no problem. I'm in no rush. I just personally taking particular interest and didn't have the time before. And I've had a few people ask me if they knew a little bit, if I knew a little bit more. And it didn't hit me until I was reading the report last night. And then, okay, I gotta ask that question. Thank you.
No. Well, I wait for an indication from other councillors, and you mentioned in your presentation the interim industrial park and the CCAMs that are awaited. I'm not sure if I caught an expected delivery date for those. Is there one? Is there any consequence on the supplier? Or what appears to be unexpected delays? So I'm aware that some businesses in the community may have made decisions in the future based on the expected arrival date of those CCANs, which now has been delayed, but they are still left hanging. Is there certainty yet with respect to an arrival date, or did you say that you, when you get that date, you will let businesses know what it will be?
Thanks for the question, Mayor Ireland. I would like to start by saying that the supplier, Custom Cubes, has been a fantastic partner throughout this. It was a very competitive process to decide would be supplying these units for Jasper through the Prairies Can grant. And one of the factors that contributed to selecting Custom Cubes was their excellent reputation and customer service. And I can attest that has been of great value as we've navigated this with them. Some modifications that were required to meet certain safety and building permit and occupancy requirements. And they have been able to pivot and are exploring options to increase their production staff. And they are committed to slotting our projects into their production schedule gaps when those do arise. So the schedule that they have provided so far is a conservative estimate that they are confident that they can hit. And they continue to look for ways to expedite that. And so we are awaiting those expedited expectation dates prior to communicating dates to the tenants and publicly. We expect the units to be delivered through September and October, starting first with the storage units, which have less complexity, and then into October with the workshop heated units. Does that answer your questions?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I can add one point to that, is that we are aware that the tenants would like to make use of the space and the assets as soon as possible. So we are working to support tenants to be able to mobilize into the interim industrial park with self-supplied units, generator power, or some sort of secondary power, so that people can begin supporting the rebuild with their critical work prior to the arrival of the CCANs.
Thank you for that additional information. Councillor Waxer.
Thank you, Mayor Ireland, from you to Mr. Ireland. I realize that this information is likely coming from Parks Canada, but I wondered if you could, had any explanation for the, they talk about 83 building permits. However, the numbers listed thereafter doesn't falls far short of 83. So I'm wondering if maybe, say the condo complex might have significant other numbers, but it's just lumped together because the numbers just didn't make sense.
Thanks for the question, Councillor Waxer. Again, as you noted, it's Parks Canada stat, but my interpretation of that is that there are 83 building permits issued since August. I think a portion of that is not tied directly to rebuild building permits. Some are pre-existing works which were underway before the fire. And I think your estimate there may also be correct that in some circumstances you have multiple building permits at one property. For example, at our interim housing at the museum, each building has its own building permit. And then in other areas where we have interim housing, there's trailers that are grouped together into one building permit. So it can change from location to location.
Thank you very much.
Mayor Ireland, if I could just supplement the response there. Council should be aware that administration is working with our colleagues at Parks and the Operations and Utilities team to do a little bit more on the ground data collection. Obviously, Parks in the sort of current system, Parks issues permits for development permits and building permits, but they don't really track construction starts, for example. And they don't necessarily, although they have the information, absolutely, but they're not sort of reporting the number of housing units that may be under a single building permit. So we're going to work with Parks to gather more of that information and make it publicly accessible, because I think that there's an important story to be told about where people are in their rebuilding process and that is their decision making, but also the volume of new housing units that are coming on stream through the rebuild. And also some of our municipal supports like the accessory dwelling unit incentive program and tracking the number of housing units that are being built, which Parks would see that as one building permit for one structure. But for our purposes for municipality, we obviously want to know that that building permit includes 2 dwelling units as a result of our incentive program. So I think it's a fair point that the data could be more useful. Because things don't necessarily stop it when somebody's been issued a permit. And in fact, somebody could be issued a permit and actually not take any active steps towards construction for a period of time. So we're working with Parks on that. We've also heard from the province that they're interested in that kind of information. And so we're going to work on collecting it.
Are there any further questions? If not, I would again look for a motion to receive the progress update for information. Councillor Waxer, is that your motion?
That is.
Thank you for that. Any debates? I will call the question. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. Thank you very much for that presentation.
Thank you.
That takes us to agenda item 6.3. Director's report from the Director of Finance and Administration. Director Melon.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good afternoon, Council. I'll just provide a quick summary of the actual report. For IT section of things, they've been working diligently with urban planning and design or standards and design on their permitting software. And then there's been some work going on with the operations servers, and also there's been upgrading of Windows 10 to Windows 11 throughout the entire municipality. So that's ongoing and will take a long time to complete. There has been work done on the internet at the transit building, and also the IT steering committee has been established as per recommended from the IT master plan that council has seen, and also there has been a setup of an indexing and alerting software for FOIP requests. So going into budget and planning, as council is aware, the audited financial statements were presented on August 5th, and they've been since uploaded onto the website, so they can be found there. And operating budget and capital budget have gone out as a preliminary template to all the directors. So the work has begun on the 26 to 28 operating and the 5-year plan for capital. On the staffing side of things, my finance manager now can focus on just being my finance manager, as the JRCC Finance Recovery Coordinator position has been filled. And that position has been hired under DRP funding until September of 2027. For utilities and taxes, all property taxes were due July 15th. Therefore, if any are outstanding, letters have been sent out to remind people that their due date might have been missed, and they would be receiving interest charges to those taxes as of that date. And also on a really good note with DRP, the municipality with the assistance of DRP will be replacing the water meters lost from the fire. And July and August meter readings are occurring in August, so ongoing at the moment. Therefore, billing will be sent out in September. And that's reflective also in when you're looking at the figures that will come to look at, that we're 2 months behind when reporting on the revenue for utilities at the moment. With insurance, there's been a lot of additional named insureds looking to increase their policies. And then also our premiums for the wastewater treatment plant, you'll see, or the new council will see an increased premium for that facility in the new year budget request. So there will be some impact in 2025, but it won't be as large as the impact of 2026. On business licensing and invoicing, we continue to see a big influx of new business licenses applications coming in. So the office has been very, very busy due to that. There were 77 business licenses that were marked as inactive, but those are majority marked inactive because they were external, outside of town businesses that weren't returning in the 2025 year. And if they do return, then they will be reactivated. And then lots of work has also been done with urban standards and design on the permits and offsite levies, already invoicing out over $100,000 since the end of July. And also working at assisting the fire department with invoicing for sprinkler kits. For the wildfire response, biweekly meetings are still occurring with the DRP team on a biweekly occurrence. And this is just to ensure that there's still open communication and that everything is understood on what is going on with our expenses. We still are waiting on one evacuation center on their invoicing. The city of Edmonton provided their evacuation center invoicing, and it was just under about $11 million. And the JRCC has also submitted 5 projects with DRP for reconciliation purposes, and they should have the first advance reconciled by the end of September. Just a reminder, especially to all the taxpayers out there, that pre-authorized and on utilities, pre-authorized payment plans are the best opportunity to move forward, as then they are taken out on a monthly basis and less likely to incur those interest fees. When it comes down to parking, I know that there's a lot of interest in what is happening with our paid parking. the exact figures to this moment are not fully known. However, just doing a quick analysis, I'm able to give you a note that we're probably at about half of our budget at the moment. So a bit behind, because it is nearing the end of August, but we're doing well. There will be some other things to consider going, and so basically there's going to be revenue loss due to the wildfire still. So looking at revenue stabilization. There's also revenue that will be incurred from hotel properties using the program. In the past, we've only had one use program in the past, sorry. And now we have 2 that are enrolled. So that will be coming at the end of the program, or we'll see that revenue. And then also there'll be internal transfers for payments for the pop-up village and how that is all panning out. So more information will come as the season wraps up. And lastly, the office is also, as we are in every summer, busy with bylaw related calls and paid parking tickets, especially during the summer. Those concerns are always heard, obviously. To jump into the next page of the report, there's a summary of all units of the department to the end of July 31st. So at 58% of the year. Most of our revenues are on target. So some are above, some are a little bit below. They average out at about 68% of our revenue has been targeted. There's still some DRP to be recognized in legislative and protective services. Paid parking, there still needs to be entries made on that, probably about $500,000 actually. We're really behind in inputting data because of the audit and financial statements going longer into the year. So everything's just a step behind. And then also, as I commented before, the utilities are only recognizing up until the end of June. When it comes to expenses, it's sitting at about 37% at the moment, but I would say we're more in line with, we're probably at that 60% mark. For instance, Alberta School Foundation requisitions haven't been recorded as of yet. There are half fundings that, so half projects, so housing, affordability funding so the projects have begun and there will be revenue to offset those expenses so you're seeing some additional expenses, but there will be offsetting revenues in that area. Then again, the utilities, there's more updates to be had in that area as well. So I would say in the next reporting, we'll be really close to getting back to where we would be normally in inputting everything into the system. Also on the expense side of things, all of the transfers to reserves haven't occurred yet either. So quick estimate is that we would be right on target with where we are in the year. And same thing with council report. Council's on target with expenses at the moment. And also with your capital expenses, you can see there's a report on the expenses that have occurred to date. The only comments that I have there on that report as for now is that you can see that there are a couple that do not have budget allocations. Those did come at a later date, but there are funding sources to offset the expenses that we're incurring. So that's the only thing that I would highlight on that report. I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Melanchuk. Questions from councillors? Councillor Keller-Renke?
Thank you, Mayor, and to Director Manager. I'm curious about business licensing, the increase, is that due to construction tractors that are coming in, that's where the increase of licensing then?
Yes, your worship, through to Councillor Keller-Hamby, yes, that is correct, due to the wildfire and additional construction occurring.
Go ahead, Councillor Keller-Renke.
I've noticed a lot of capital projects haven't started yet. Do you see an increase of them going over into 2026, or do you think most of them will start in?
Your worship, through to Councillor Keller-Hamby, I believe I'd be better to comment on that at our next update. I feel that we need to talk about budget a little bit more with senior leadership and figure out where everybody is sitting with their projects at the moment. Mr. Gibbon might have more to add to that.
I think the other thing that I would add is that the update that Director Melanchuk shared is July 31st. Obviously, the summer is a busy construction season for the municipality, not exclusively, but a lot of our projects do happen in the summer season. So I think as we get closer to budget time, this starts to become more in focus. Also, the submission, what you see here is actually reflects projects that have been fully closed out. And so there may be projects that are underway where invoicing hasn't happened or they're not fully closed out. So this starts to every year at this stage, it looks like there's lots undone. And you really don't have the full picture until the completion of construction season and the invoicing from all of the projects, which can take a number of months to sort of finalize. But Director Melanchuk's right, the senior leadership team takes a close look at that. And I know that the directors have, as we've gotten through some early stages of recovery, have been able to turn their attention to some of the sort of pre-fire capital projects that were in the plan. I know a number of the directors have made that a focus over the course of the summer. So I think that you'll start to see a lot of this progressing into that completed category.
Thank you.
Councillor Melnick.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to Director Melanchuk. Couple of questions. I saw the note here, the indication of water meters that were due to the wildfire that were damaged were going to be replaced with DRP funding. Is that going to be taking place over 5 years?
Your worship, through to Councillor Melnick. With that, yes, it will be occurring with the replacement of the properties. However, we do have knowledge as to how many were lost. So we could preemptively also replace them and have them available for the units to be available for when they completed their builds.
Thank you for that. And my next question relates to the next bullet point regarding insurance. When we receive inquiries for additional insured to increase their policy, there's a financial impact to the municipality? And on that same note, I guess the premiums for the wastewater treatment plant have increased because of the increase in the appraised value. Are there other municipal assets as well that will have higher insurance premiums?
Your worship, through to Councillor Melnick, on the first note of additionally insured, this will not necessarily impact the municipality financially as what their fees are, we bill back to them. The only thing that additionally would impact us is administration time. So which is impacted, but not by a large amount. And then on the side of increasing premiums, it was due to that appraisal, for the wastewater treatment plant. We've had a lot of, upgrades. So we wanted to ensure that we were being insured properly for everything that, we've upgraded. And, for instance, also, we've done a lot of renovations to the activity center and aquatic center. So those premiums have increased because of the, renovations, and they ultimately, are worth more now. So those are the impacts. I have not yet seen any premiums increase due to any other reason. For instance, the wildfire. It's been due to us showing that our assets are worth more than what they had recorded.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Director Melanchuk, just referring to that first page of the numbers, the summary. You did indicate that some of the numbers might be off just because of data entry delays. But I'm curious, in a general sense, revenue for urban design is a fairly high percentage, more than 58% of the annual total. What revenue flows in through urban design?
Your worship, this is actually at this point a portion of the Housing Accelerator Fund, as well as rent from the Cottage Medical Clinic at this point. So that's only a portion of what we'll see come in, but that's what you're seeing as the larger amount.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you for that. And before we had an urban design department, but that revenue will gone to operations.
I imagine so. Either that or administration, depending on, because we've had a housing service level, so whether or not we record it as administration or operations, it would depend on the work being done and by who, yes.
Also on the revenue side, revenue for legislative and protective services is significantly lower as a percentage. It's down around 20%. That I take it in part would be attributable just to not counting up the dollars yet, particularly from paid parking.
Yes, you're correct. So even just quickly adding in the paid parking alone that hasn't been recorded brings that percentage to 70%.
On the expense side, do we know what's going on again with urban design, where the expense to date exceeds the budget?
Yes, your worship. So again, that is just projects beginning with that will be supported by that Housing Accelerator Fund. So that is what you're seeing. There will be a operational portions that you'll see run through this budget at this point.
And finally, the operational expense, again, exceedingly low for this point in the year. What is your expectation of why that percentage is so low?
Your worship, sorry, the operations expense?
Yes, so it's
right. So
25% of what was budgeted, and we're 60% into the year.
Right. So the biggest impact will be utilities. There will be some stabilization that would normally, or that we'll have to look at because of the destroyed properties from and not ultimately they are not using the utilities at the moment. So there will be some adjustments to be made in respect to that.
Thank you very much for all of it.
You're welcome.
Councillor Keller Green.
Mayor Ireland, through you to Ms. Olenchuk, just one more question on the business license. When we said that there's a lot of new contracts, would that be all lead contractors and subcontractors that would be required to have business licenses?
Currently at the moment, this would include contractors and subcontractors. I know the conversation has been shifted on how that will be recorded going forward. But any businesses that are doing work within Jasper would be receiving those business licenses at the moment.
Great to hear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there further questions for Director Melnichuk? If there are not, I would invite a motion that council receive the report from Finance and Administration for information. Councillor Demota, thank you very much. All in favor? There are none opposed, that is carried. Thank you, Director Melnichuk. That takes us to agenda item 6.4. The advertising bylaw 2025. It comes before us with certification from Parks Canada, and it is before us for third reading. Is there a councillor prepared to make a motion, or Councillor Reid? Whoever it is, bylaw number 271 for the third and final time. Councillor Melnick.
Thank you, Your Worship. I will make that motion that council give third reading to bylaw 271, the advertising bylaw 2025 as presented.
Thank you for that motion. Is there any debate on the motion? Call the question. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. Agenda item 6.5 is the health and safety policy, which comes forward by way of recommendation from Committee of the Whole. If there are no further questions of administration, I would look for a motion unless administration has anything that they wish to contribute before council receives a motion. Councillor Watser.
I make the motion that council approve policy E109, health and safety as presented, and that council rescind policy E009, health and safety.
Thank you for that motion. Councillor Watser. In the absence of hands signifying debate, I would call the question. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That was carried. Takes us to agenda item 6.6, the rebuild bylaw 2025. Again, before us by way of recommendation for first and second reading. Any questions outstanding with respect to this bylaw, which amends 3 other existing bylaws? I had one question, Mr. Given, it was through you. I have thought at some point we have talked about a sunset clause for this, so it amends bylaws to get us through the rebuild, but at some point I would assume that we would want to rescind this bylaw and go back to where we were. Is that something that had been considered to be included in the bylaw, or we just trust that we deal with that when the time comes?
Mayor Ireland, certainly something administration had considered, and the approach of having this rebuild bylaw allows us to simply rescind this bylaw and rescind all the changes made to other bylaws. But we haven't identified a specific date that might happen, a sunset clause, so to speak, because as council can appreciate, we don't yet know how long the rebuild's gonna take. And so right now, to presume that that would be in September of 2026 or September of 2027, or is it September of 2028? We don't have a clear idea of that at this time. And so I think administration believes it'd be preferable for council to have the latitude to assess the state of the rebuild and whether these sort of approaches continue to be warranted in whole or in part. And if administration, identifies that there are challenges with, implementing any of these amended approaches, we would bring that forward to council to amend any relevant bylaws at that time. So we didn't include it because we don't know exactly when, or we don't know exactly how long these alternate approaches will be required.
Thank you for that. I have considered rather than a time, a benchmark when we reach 80% of completion or something. I'm happy to leave it to the future. I knew that there was that discussion and I didn't see it. I just wanted to hear the explanation, so I appreciate that. If there are no additional questions from councillors, I would look for a motion that council give first reading to bylaw number 272, the rebuild bylaw 2025. Deputy Mayor Hall. So a motion for first reading. See no hands for debate. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. And is there then a councillor prepared to make a motion that we give a second reading to 272, the rebuild bylaw 2025? Councillor Waxer, thank you for that. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. So that will be forwarded for certification from Parks Canada. Be back for a third reading, I guess, before this term is over. Agenda item 6.7 is the post-wildfire infrastructure damage assessment report. Which was attached to the last agenda and comes forward by way of recommendation from community board to receive the report for information. Are there any questions about that post-wildfire infrastructure damage assessment? There are not. If there are not, I would look for a motion that council receive the report for information. Councillor Keller-Garanti, thank you. See no hands for debate. So we'll call the question. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. We added 2 items to today's agenda. Item 6.8. Councillor Melnick, Community Futures West Yellowhead, I think is my note. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is an information item for council and for the community. Community Futures West Yellowhead recently requested that the Jasper 2024 Jasper Recovery Loan program, which was due to expire on September 1st, 2025, that it be extended for another year to September 1st, 2026. This program is administered through the Community Futures West Yellowhead office. It applies to businesses. The program is eligible for businesses that were active in the municipality of Jasper and Parks Canada at the time of the fire. It does allow for low interest loans at 4% in the amounts of $5,000 up to a maximum of $15,000, and it gives our businesses an opportunity to apply for these loans if they have not already. They're interest-free for the first 6 months. And as I said, the interest rate is 4% on the 3-year term. Matter of, like I say, information is on the Community Futures West Yellowhead website.
Thank you for that. Councillor Melnick, just give an opportunity if there are any councillors with any questions about that. I see nothing, and I would again propose we move to agenda item 6.9, which was added at the request of administration. It is to be an in-camera item. So I will need a motion to go in camera before I call it for that motion. It was anticipated that coming out of the in-camera session, that we will action something. Typically, we try and save this for the end of the day when we're not going to come back. So rather than inconvenience the gallery, I wonder whether council might move in camera, retire, leave people in their comfortable chairs if they wish to stay at all, and then we but we could either make use of the office next door or the mayor's office, or potentially the Rotary room, but disturb people to the least extent possible. So that is my proposal. First, then I would ask for a motion that council move in camera at 3:44 p.m. Deputy Mayor Paul, thank you for that. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. We will move in camera and we will retire and then return when we can. And for those watching, I'm not sure how we signify that we're going to be back on air, but we'll be back when we can. Thank you all. We are now back in session. During our in-camera session, we had the only motion that we are allowed to make, which is a motion to revert to open session again, and we are now back in open session. And arising from our in-camera discussion, I understand that there will be a motion arising. Councillor Waxer.
Yes, I'm happy to make the motion that we council authorize the mayor to sign the letter of understanding number 7 between the municipality of Jasper and CUPE local 1458 as presented.
Thank you for that motion, Councillor Waxer. Certainly debate. I will call the question. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. Thank you for that. CAO given, as people will understand, that was a labor matter which is required to be discussed in camera. That takes us to agenda item 7, notices of motion. There are none on the agenda. Is there any councillor who wishes to present any notice of motion at this time? I see no hands. Move to agenda item 8, councillor reports. Are there reports from councillors? Councillor Kelleher.
Thank you, Mayor. Last week, Councillor Melnick and myself, we had some guests from Hakone that came, and they spent 3 days in Jasper with Rico and her husband, and they attended many activities and also visited the museum. On Wednesday last week, I attended the Riverboat event in Edmonton with Alpine Summit, our lodge in Edson, Hinton, Grand Cache, and Yellowhead County. It was great to have all the residents from all of our properties together in Edmonton, and we met with many of the administration from senior housing.
Thank you for that report. other reports? See no other hands?
And yes, and yesterday, many of us attended the taxation workshop.
Right. If there are no further reports, then we can move to agenda item 9, upcoming events. We are approaching our last meeting of this council. 2 regular meetings away. That's 2 maybe whole meetings as well, yeah, for us. Nomination day is approaching September 22nd. Event votes over 50, and people can ask for special ballots, particularly people residing outside of the community who are still entitled to vote in municipal elections. So they have a few tasks to handle to request that special ballot, but it's certainly available to them. And then we have municipal election day over 20th. Are there any other upcoming events that should be brought to the attention of council? If not, oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Melvin.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to add into our upcoming events, we should note that on the September 30th will be the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation.
Thank you for that. Councillor Melvin. Is there a folk fest this year? That's not on the list, but
That's right.
September 5th.
September 5th.
Oh,
And the crisis team golf tournament is September 5th.
Right.
Okay.
All right, thank you for both of those. And again, then, if there is nothing further, I'll give one more opportunity. And then look for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Keller, thank you for that. All those in favor? There are none opposed. We are adjourned. Thank you all for watching our live stream on Zoom, and for those who will watch on our YouTube channel later on. And thank you to those members of the public who stuck it all out today, as they often do. Thank you.